Ah, oh my God, there you go. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes, all right. All right, this is going to be all right. Let me just end the stream. Oh, okay, fine, whatever. Okay, so it seems that I messed up the setting. Hoo. Haven't been streaming for a while. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the 2022 update. I know the devs here mentioned 2021 update, but we're in 2022. Let's not kid ourselves. We are in 2022 update. So the good thing is the devs do promise an update every sort of 6 months. They're going to change it so that it's a bit earlier, but how the trend works out, I'm slightly having doubts with their ability to sort of maintain this sort of 6 month schedule. So we're gonna go through the changes. I know the changes just dropped literally last night. I think around 2 a.m. my time, which is around 2 p.m. EST. So that's around 14 minutes, around 8 Euro time. A lot of things to go through. A lot of winners, a lot of losers from the patch. But so how? For those of you currently watching live, sorry for like that awkward 6 minutes of silence. I totally did not mean for that to happen, but it seems that I just messed up the mix setting and it didn't come out any choice. If you're watching this on the VOD, welcome. I'm gonna sort of probably just gonna give like a stamp to sort of to click on when the stream is starting. So how are we going to sort of go through this update changes? There's a lot of factions, so we're gonna go through each and single one of them. We're gonna see before the patch what are their sort of key strengths and key weaknesses, and what are the sort of like the problem areas that they're having. It seems that there's a lot of data that's been accumulated in the last year. There's a lot of activities that's happening. So we're going to see if the changes that the devs sort of have for each of this faction is sort of the answer that the players are looking for. So with that said, let's go through the first one. So let's go with Stark. So where was Stark back in the previous edition? Stark went from like sort of the king of A Song of Ice and Fire into sort of becoming the bottom tier elo friendly faction. They went from the gimmick of high activation, high movement, sort of like a lot of dices to attack, into sort of this weird, I would even have to say, grindy faction with things like Karstark Spearman, which gives you basically two plus defenses, and a lot of different and then units that sort of have a lot of stats into it. Some of the things that were good in Stark, we have things like Warcry, which was very apparent. I think Warcry is one of the sort of the premier ability of the patch. It brings a lot of units into sort of notoriety, things like the Champion of Fate, things like the She-Bears, etc. But Stark has always had this sort of self-wounding effect that if you take wounds, you get a lot of benefits, and then it makes Stark into sort of this weird faction where you sort of have to just like take damage in order for them to actually be useful. And some of the cards that we have back then simply does not commensurate to the damage that you yourself are giving. Sometimes you give yourself an extra vicious, you take 2 wounds, but then you enemy succeeded the panic test anyway, so you took that 2 wounds for nothing. There's just a lot of dices, a lot of factors, and let's see how they changes it. So I'm gonna also go through the design notes because I think design notes is an important tool to sort of discuss the thoughts of like the devs where they put things into perspective. So let's start first with attachments. Great John Umber Fierce Bannerman to the last modify. To the last was universally buff across the range to be more user friendly. So the changes to the last, I think let's just quickly go through it. So they changed it into this ability. Place 2 heart token at the start of the game. Each time this unit will be destroyed, remove 1 heart token from this card. It makes a 1 morale test, and a success this card. This unit is not destroyed but remains plain 1 wound, which means that it's sort of like you have 2 Aegis of immortality to the unit. Of course, that for example, if you fail the morale test, it is destroyed anyway. But then you can always just take the token. So you have sort of like 2 chances to revive. It also works like, for example, you get killed by damage and then you roll to the last. and then you fail the panic test, and then you go to the last again, and you succeed the panic test. So it gives you sort of a bit more flexibility rather than the previous one where you just survive on 1 HP, but then you take a panicked and vulnerable, which is, and then you have to still take the panic test, etc. So it's not fantastic, the previous to the last. Right now, maybe, I'm not sure. But Greyjohn Umber did get changed so that he becomes sort of a 2-pointer instead of the a 1-pointer instead of the previous one. So okay, to the last. Sorry, no point changes, just to the last modified. Mira Reed with Cunning Trapper. Order Hidden Traps modified. Hidden Traps will universally buff across the range to allow more diverse control. So this is also important for one other very PTSD-inducing unit called Trappers. So again, let's scroll through the magic scroll the button here to see what are the actual changes to this traps. So let's go through the Free Folk one. I think they should have changes in this one. Yep. Okay. So previously, let's press it one more time. And what the? Okay. Hello. Okay. Seems this is amateur hour here. In terms of I can't press the PDF button here. What the? All right. Here we go. Yes. Order Hidden Traps. When an unengaged enemy in long range performs any action, before resolving an action, choose 1. The enemy suffers 1 hit plus 1 hit for each of its remaining ranks, or the enemy suffers -1 movement until the end of the turn. So this was buffed from the previous one, which is, I believe, is just equal to the ranks. I'm opening up the Trappers right now. Previous one is 1 hit for each of its remaining ranks, and triggers a disorderly charge and a charge distance of 1 and 2. So this changes give him sort of like a more potential of hitting units. For example, if an unengaged infantry activates, it now suffers 4 automatic hit. The disorderly charge was sort of a meme, to begin with. You don't really sort of you don't really need them. It's sort of like a gacha ability. If you get it, yay. If you don't, whatever. So this is a nice overall changes, and will it push Free Folk Trappers back in the menu? Probably not, because they still have insignificant. But we're still talking about the Stark, so let's continue with the Stark. Brandon Hodor Protected and Ward, cost reduced from 2 to 1. So this is interesting, yeah. Because Brandon Hodor was the requirement to bring Summer, and now that it's reduced to just a cost of 2 instead of cost of 1 instead of 2, so this might bring sort of the whole package from, I think, 4 points, or from 5 points to just 4 points. So Summer costs 3, Brandon Hodor costs 2, so it used to be 5 points, now it's just a 4 points package for basically an extra activation. So it makes it sort of in line with how much an activation should cost. Whereas I think now the minimum for an activation is 4 points. So it used to be 5 points, now it's 4 points. So I think this is a good change. Sansa Stark Little Bird, ability modified. The Sansa wasn't quite providing the value which she was for, so we have modified her effect to allow more usage. Let's go through the Sansa card. I think the Sansa is here. Nope. Is here. Repeating the words. Once per game, when Sansa activates, you may return 1 tactics from a discard pile to your hand. Each time Sansa claims a zone, you may step a zone effect, return to. Okay. This is powerful, yeah. Not only that, you have the previous sort of repeating the words. You can return 1 tactic card from a discard pile to your hand. Now, every time Sansa claims a zone, you may replace the zone's effect with return 1 tactic card from a discard pile to your hand. So, she gets sort of like a graveyard synergy with the things that you have. So now you can do the play of like pitching your stuff into the graveyard, and then you take them back at like a more opportune time. It also makes Sansa a little more appealing for 4 points. Overall, really good change. Arya Stark the Wolf Girl. Ability modified. Design notes. Like Sansa, Arya wasn't bringing enough value for her cost. Her once per game effect has been increased to twice per game. So I don't need to go to the changes in the below. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a straight buff. Previously it was once per game. Now it's twice per game. So now you get those two maneuvers. Well, 2 per games. Ooh, Eddard Stark, Warden of the North, cost increased from 5 to 6. Huh. Alright. Eddard's ability was overshadowing most other options within the faction, even after others were buffed. Lowering the numbers of token available shifted him a bit too far in the other direction. So his point cost has instead been raised, and numbers of token kept the same. This is a weird change. I understand the strength of the Eddard NCU. It is a powerful NCU, but changing it from 5 to 6 with the decision of its overshadowing the rest of the pick is a bit of a tongue for me. So the good news about, I guess, this sort of activity is that now you get to keep both Brandon Hodor and Eddard in the same list. Previously the package would have cost 7 points. Now it is still 7 points. So plus minus the same. I sort of don't like this comment that overshadowing most options within the faction. I would even deem to say that, you know, the reason why this happened in the first place because everyone else was not really good. The design of the previous other NCU wasn't very good. Arya once per game at 4 points. Sansa once per game for 4 points. Kate was really good, but it was only basically a Kate plus Eddard show in the NCU section. Of course, there's always the neutral options, but now with the Tycho Nerf. So, yeah, I don't like this. The design notes they make from this one. It makes it seem that Eddard was sort of like the cornerstone of the whole Stark thing, which, you know, he is, but at the same time, it seems like a lazy change from 5 to 6. Just, you know, it pushes him to basically unplayability now that Sansa and Arya has been buffed. So yeah, I don't like this. Combat unit. House Stark Sworn Sword plus Eddard Honor Guard. Order Stark Fury removed. Melee attack replaced with Winter's Bite. Design notes. Order Stark Fury shared the same trigger as numerous Stark Tactics cards as well as attachment abilities. While this was intentional, it has proved to be too restrictive and limiting for a unit, as well as been removed and unit getting a similar effect. This allowed you to make better use of the tools available to House Stark. So it seems like it's just, you know, cleaning up the wording and sort of to make it less restrictive. So let's look at the cards here. So Winter's Bite. Huh? One more. Thank you. Winter's Bite. Eddard's Honor Guard. Oh, the name is no longer Stark Fury? No. Oh man, no. I don't like this. No, man. Okay, so I don't like this for a few reasons. Namely, to few is that no longer you yell out Stark Fury, right? And you roll like a bunch of dices. Those days are gone. Now it's just called Winter's Bite, and it's boring. Oh man. All right. Okay. So we can go through quickly of like the Stark Sworn Sword. So Winter's Fury. So now they have natural critical blow. It has +1 to hit if you have 1 destroyed rank, and if you have 2 destroyed ranks, you may reroll any attack dice. Okay. On the plus side, I like it that because they change so that it no longer is just an order. It's, you know, it's just an ability that's static that happens. But at the same time, this ability seems very vanilla. Wait, yeah. So, yep. I mean, unfortunately, but yeah. Okay, let's go to the next changes. House Tully Cavaliers, Lance Rework. Units with the Lance keyword were designed to have high impact damage upon the charge, but low sustain. Unfortunately, the Luminal Lance was not quite giving the damage output to justify drop of points of the unit. It has been buffed to allow greater potential hits. So I believe the changes to Lance, this is a universal change. We're seeing this also in like Knights of Casterly Rock, is that you get an extra 1 hit. Yep. For each +2 attack. Oh, hold on. This is changing significantly. When charging, rolls +2 attack dice for each remaining rank in its units. 10 dice on the swing? Huh. 10 dice on the swing. That is significant, yeah. I mean, back then, the problem with Landscav in general, because the damage output is 8, and then, well, it is still a potential for 1 shot, 8 damage from the charge itself, and then you have Panic Tests at 11 with Hear Me Roar, so that's 12. So assuming your opponent fails, you roll all succeed, opponent fails all, then you have a Hear Me Roar with maximum damage, unit will go down. Now the potential hit from Lance is now 10 dice. That is huge. 10 is one-shot territory here. And I believe the same applies also for like the Tully Calf. Yep. That is huge, yeah. So 10 dice on the swing. With Sundering. Yeah, well, this is good. I like it. I like the changes to the lands. I think it makes more sense. Cavalry units, Landscav units should be scary in this game. However, I don't like also the implication of the lands changes to the... I'm not sure if this is a leak or if this is a preview on the Highgarden Cavaliers or whatever they call it. Because they're a cheap Landscav unit, and you know, now that Lances universally works, so suddenly they're playing with a lot of dice for a low point unit, and this might be troublesome simply because now you have a very cost efficient unit running around. But let's continue talking about the Starks. Next Apu is House Stark Outriders, cost reduced from 7 to 6. So this is part of the whole universally buffed to Light Calf. So the Light Calves have always been sort of in this awkward position in this game. They used to be sort of like the midway unit from like a Landscav to like just a normal infantry, but with like movement stapled on it. With the advent of Landscav with 8 points and like some Light Calf unit remaining at 7 points, there simply isn't a lot of incentive to bring this unit. Outriders specifically was it was the shit back in like the previous edition, but now it has sort of been reverted back because of now like it's 4+ to hit. So it used to be the shit, now it's like whatever. So people aren't really bringing Outriders. There's no design notes, but it's simply, I think it's just that the rework is there for like just pointage purposes. Crownman Trackers, Hidden Traps modified. Yep, we've already seen what the Hidden Traps can do, so I don't need to talk too much about that. Executioner's Fury Reworked. Design notes. Initially designed to be continuous threat at all ranks, switching from high defense penetration to panic-based damage, this team proved to stretch Great Axis in too many directions, giving them an uncertain role in the army. They are now hyper-focused to be the premier line breakers for House Stark. Alright, let's see what premier line breaker sounds in the design notes. And we're looking at... Oops. God damn it. One more. Thank you. Executioner's Fury. Sundering. Enemy suffers an initial -1 for each of this unit's destroyed rank. Okay. So, 3 plus 7, 6, 5. 4 plus 5 plus. Unyielding. So it has super sundering when you are at sort of low rank. So at low rank, you're basically hitting at 5 dice, 3+ to hit. With Executioner's Fury, so enemies suffers -3 on their saves. So I think it's good. Yeah, I mean you have to sort of put them in a position where they can do the most damage. Like for example, you're hitting your enemies 3+, or you're hitting your enemies 4+, but up against things like 5+ armor save or 6+ armor save, I think this ability is sort of wasted. But yeah, this seems fine. I don't have a lot of comments for this one. All right, let's continue. Next one is tactics card, Winter's Mind. All right, let's just go through all the tactics card in one go. So yeah, this is the two card that I mentioned, where you sort of took damage for like the cost of basically nothing. Well, at the cost of wounds, which is a very difficult currency in this game, and you're getting like a marginal effect. So we'll see what the rework of these two tactics cards are. Let's go straight here. Winter Smite now reads, when a friendly unit is performing a melee attack for rolling attack dice, the attack needs Sundering. If this unit has only one remaining rank, it may reroll any attack dice. If you control Sword, this attack rolls with its highest attack dice value. So this combos well with things like just the basic Sworn Sword. It has a bit of sort of redundancy with the reroll attack dice at one remaining rank, but the Sword control highest attack dice's value. And the plus side of this thing is there's no wound. You don't take wounds from like playing your own card, so that's excellent. When a friendly unit is performing an attack test for an attack dice, attack 18 fishes. If the unit has one remaining rank and the defender fails, you have 7 plus the wound if you control Sword if enemy becomes panic. Also really, really powerful, this one. Again, the theme of having one rank and then you get like a lot of these activities is sort of like what the Stark design wants to be. Now that luckily the card no longer gives you damage, so you do need... so the thing that I dislike about this type of design is just that you have to sort of be at your enemy's mercy to trigger your abilities. I know that you don't really have a say in like, you know, how many dices that they're attacking or like you know, how much dice do you save, but the onus on sort of, you know, putting that decision is on the enemy is always usually, I never like it as a design. It sort of stuns you from making some decision because the enemy is making that decision for you. So it takes away from like the player decision making, and it sort of just, you know, gives it back to the enemy. I sort of don't like this design, but I understand what they're doing for, what they're going for. So yes. Berserker Tactics. When a friendly unit is performing melee attack after rolling attack dice, if this targets a house member unit, the enemy becomes panicked. This unit may suffer up to 3 wounds. If it suffers any wounds, the attack deals +1 that additional wounds. So Berserker Tactics was sort of the, I would say, one of the signature card back then for like Starks. The reason I say this is because the previous card, I believe, says this attack deals +1 wound and +1 additional wound for each of the attacker's destroyed ranks. So it sort of rewards you when you're at the precipice of death, but now with this, you can sort of decide whether you want to do it or not when you attack. So I like this simply because it puts the decision making on the player playing the card instead of the opponent trying to defend against Berserker Tactics. So I like it because it shifts the decision making back to the players instead of the opponent sort of gets to think about whether they want to finish off a unit or they want to sort of continue on with your attacks. So how do I feel about the Stark overall? I'm still not going to play Stark. I think they address some of the key weaknesses that the Stark has, mainly in sort of like the self-damaging department, which is significant. They reduce some of the self-wounding effect and some of the minor effect that those self-wounds give, and they just give you an overall powerful attack buff. We're going to probably see a shift back into Tully Cavaliers because of their potential 10 dice on the charge, coupled with, you know, the vicious that some of the cards give. Even Berserker Tactics. Wait, can Berserker Tactics work on Landscav? Wait a minute. Berserker Tactics. Yes! Yep. So, with Berserker Tactics in with Landscav, you are dealing 10 auto hits plus 4 additional wounds. That is one shot there. One shot is back in the game, boys. One shot is back in the game. Oh, hell yeah. So, yep. I like it. Yep. So, again, I think one shot is back in the menu with Berserker Tactics, landscape changes, Hear Me Roar, etc. So, yep. Rest of the cards, I think we've already looked at it. It's 1.6 point. Jesus. Let's continue. Onwards to my favorite faction. The faction that I play most of the time for a long time. I've been playing Lannisters for a while. I'll still continue playing Lannister. However, in this patch, I think I've seen it that it's kind of sad. All right. Let's continue. Attachment, Guard Captain, ability Iron Resolve removed, order Hold the Line added. Design note, Iron Resolve was improving to add enough incentive to the overall Lannister army, leading to the Guard Captain to be a rather low inclusion. You mean zero inclusion? Because no one's running Guard Captain. The ability has been replaced with a new order Hold the Line, giving House Lannister a means of causing damage through attrition while their morale effect plays out. So Hold the Line is an entirely new order. Used to be +1 to hit and +2 attack dice. Now it has been changed completely into when this unit activates, targets 1 engaged with this unit, suffers 2 hits +1 for each of the unit's remaining ranks. So there's actually 2 major things that I would like to sort of highlight on why this changes is important. Number 1. Oops, I don't think I took out the right documents here. Alright, here we go. So, the changes that I would like to mention, and because that they have this significant change where they have this thing rule called idleness means death. Engaged unit might not choose to forego performing their actions. They must elect to perform an attack action or retreat action. If an ability or effect will allow either special ability to perform an engaged, you may perform an effect. You may choose to perform a whatever. So the point is why this is important. Guard Captain, Lannister Guardsmen can no longer just be ignored. You have to either, so if they claim the objective or they're sitting on the objective, you can't just like engage them and do nothing. In which there's a lot of active plays out. In Lannister we send out poor fellows. They just do nothing. They wail on them with their pitiful 6 dice 4+ to hit, and then we just heal it back up. But now with this idleness means death, with Guardsmen, with Guard Captain, you are suddenly dealing a lot of random hits to the opponent. So Guard Captain triggers, they suffer 5 auto hits, plus then they activate, they punch 6 dice 4+ to hit. On average, you will hit 3 or 4, so that's an overall 4 or 5 wounds to the enemy. Pretty good for like a 6-point package. Will Guardsmen see play? They might now, with the changes to the whole commander scoring, etc. So yeah, the 3 Guard Captain Scalp has been changed. Boros Blount has also been changed. Vengeance to the Crown. After each unit is attacked with a melee attack, if you control Crown, the attacker suffers 1 wound, +1 wound for each of this unit's destroyed ranks. So I'm just looking at what the previous Boros Blount does, and I think for each so they added the extra suffers 1 wound just in general. Again, Boros Blount used to be not played in any of the competitive level because simply in neither any of the Kingsguard except maybe Preston is played in any like high level competition because of the 1 point slot is quite expensive for this game. In a sense that whatchamacallit, in a sense that 1 point for 40 points in a 40-point game is a huge. It's a lot of cost. So you're just most likely using it to bring your champion of the faith, or you bring any other attachment, etc. So it's not powerful enough, and I think it will still continue to be not so powerful. It is a good change, however. People might try it, people might run it, so we'll see what happens. All right, let's talk about Joffrey. Okay, Joffrey used to be probably, I would say, one of the most sort of balanced NCU. It's a hot take, but I really think Joffrey was balanced. Why do I say Joffrey is balanced? Because the whole symmetry effect. Yes, you get crown, but at the same time, crown is sort of how your list is supposed to play out, and you have a lot of benefits from taking crown. It's not a huge. I'm not saying it's a huge. It's not a huge benefit. It's not a game-breaking benefit, but it also locks in your play so that you have to sort of activate Joffrey relatively early to turn on your entire effect. So it gives you attacks and activation. On the plus side, it also gives the enemy a decision to give you a panic token, in which Lannisters really don't like panic tokens. So that's why I said that Joffrey was sort of a very symmetrical unit. But now the point has gone to 5, and they removed the panic token. So I think it's a straight buff to Joffrey, in the sense that it's a nice rebalance. 5 points with no drawback. I think it's fine. You will still run Joffrey in a sense that he's just really, really good. But now Baelish, Pycelle, and Sparrow will probably be the 12-point choices for the Lannister. All right, let's go back to the Lannister. Yeah, whatever. Okay, Crossbowmen, defend increase from 5+ to 4+, to hit of crossbow attack increase from 4+ to 3+. Design notes: Crossbowmen were designed to be potent ranged threat that could hammer enemy from distance. Unfortunately, their 2 hits severely limited their usage, as often more consistent damage could be attained elsewhere. Increasing their 2 hit greatly aided this, but they still felt a bit lacking compared to flashier units. We have increased their defense of 4+, making them very durable as far as range shooting goes, allowing them to get into shootouts with similar style enemies and come out ahead. So it's okay. Crossbowmen weren't used at all in the previous edition. Let's just get it out of the way. You have Stormcrow archers, which is just the more better unit. Like, no questions asked. They also have 4+ to hit, but at the same time they have 3 zone reliant effects, in which that if you take any of the zones that you want to take anyway, right? Sword, leather, and money bags, they gain extra benefits. So now Lannister Crossbowmen basically sort of you have inbuilt Sundering, so the money bag effect is no longer as necessary as it was for Stormcrow archers. With the sword, they were running a 4+ to hit with rerolls. Now it's just 3+ to hit with no rerolls, and no vulnerable from the letter. Of course, the Stormcrow archer does have a profile of 764, and the Crossbowman has, I believe, 664 or 663. I hope it's 664 at least. 664. Okay. So Stormcrow archer has a higher dice in their full rank. I don't know. I would still. Okay, so there is two top patterns for here. We're going to see a change in Bolton Cutthroats, making them a very, very tempting 5 points unit to add to your list. At the same time, neutral cap also exists. So at the same time, if you want to bring, 1 unit of Cutthroat, 1 unit of Flayed Men, Littlefinger for 17, you can't bring Stormcrow Archers. Then you have to take this Lannister Crossbowman for your sort of range option. So on that note, it's okay. It's a fine change. The decision making then goes from I bring Stormcrow Archers into, if I have neutral limit, I bring Stormcrow Archers. If I don't have neutral limit, I bring Lannister Crossbowmans. House Clegane Mount. You know what? I'm not gonna read all of this, because I think I'm just gonna get a lot of heartache. So I'm just gonna go through it, all of it, and then just go through here. Red Cloak, primary damage come from panic, blah blah blah. With Malphite only 6 points, or panic that is more in line. Poor fellows were pretty just to be durable for their point cost, able to drag down much more expensive unit with little recourse. To reduce some of their durability, their morale has reduced from 4+ to 6+. In addition to this, the healing effects of Zealous Resurgence have been slightly reduced, removing the bonus when the unit is at its last rank. Alright. Lannister Nerf. Crowd goes wild. The Lannister in me cries. Alright, I'm a bit sad to see the changes in Lannister. They did buff a couple of things. Alright, let's talk about Mountain Men. Mountain Men now has plus minus a 3+ to hit on a 6-point unit with conditional, +1 to hit and fishes when attacking enemies with the same or fewer remaining ranks. So this is like the changes says, is subtle but important. So now when they're sort of alpha striking, when they're charging a unit that has like equal ranks, they become like a 3+ unit to hit unit with critical blow and fishes, making them basically almost similar to their previous incarnation. So yeah, it's fine. I think it's okay. I mean, I might play now Mountain Men. I have a unit painted. I have 2 units painted. So, all right, cool. Red Cloaks we've discussed. Hell yeah! All right, 10 dice on the charge with Hear Me Roar is love. Yep. And oh man, my poor fellows. Okay. To be fair though, there's still a 4-point activation in a list that because Poor Fellows is just so predominant in a Lannister list. The only sort of downside of this is that now there's no good room for the Champion of Fate. It used to be that you put Champion of Fate and Poor Fellows, you put them in the back and then you spam out Warcry. But now with the changes of this with 6+, it now becomes sort of inconsistent. 6+ becomes 5+ if you put it next to Weirwood. But yeah. I think the core of the Lannister list will not change simply because Warrior Sun is still around. You're just bringing sort of a weaker Poor Fellow package. Lance Cav is now back on the menu, so I am still interested in trying out like a triple cavalry list even. So Knights of Casterly Rock plus Flayed Men plus the Mountain, so that's 20 points. And then 2 Poor Fellows, 24, 28, with 1 Poor Fellow becoming the Commander Bunker, because it's no longer now like a unit where you are really need to protect too much. And then you bring 4 NCUs. So I think I would like to try that list for Lannister. So it's just triple cavalry, Knights of Casterly Rock plus Flayed Men plus Mountain. They sort of form a hunting pack. 2 Poor Fellows, 4 sustain, and 12 points. So that is the hottest of takes for Lannisters. Yep. Let's move on. So to the surprise of no one's in chat. It's fine. It is now like 8 p.m. for America. I think everybody's sort of like just spending time with their families, and of course for Europe, it's still fall asleep. But you will catch the VOD later on. I'll share this both in YouTube and Twitch VOD, so you guys get to see the hottest of the takes from your boy Van, and you get to see them later on. All right, Night's Watch, aka the boogeyman of the previous edition. Alright, let's go quickly. Watch Captain, Order Relentless modified. Relentless was proving too powerful when fielded in a ranged unit. It has been universally modified to now only a maneuver or a melee attack. Okay. So this has been sort of confirmed in the previous stream by one of the devs. They did mention that it is going to be removing range attack from the Relentless. Okay. So this is the part of me that tells me again that the devs simply do not understand how Relentless works and how it's used in a list of what they can do. So what they can be done is to give you a pseudo activation for 3 points. So it is still extremely powerful, even without the range attack. Because now you can push for like 8 or 9 activation with the Relentless Order, you get them into position and then you charge with them is still a powerful play. Allowing maneuver or melee attack only for a unit that essentially costs activation, it gives you an activation for 3 points, is still not enough. I think this is still a bit too much for Relentless, and I think removing range attack is a start, but it isn't good. It is still going to be used to modify your activation advantage. It also gives you like a higher chance of double tapping capacity. And there's simply no counterplays to this. So, I don't know. I don't like it. But whatever. Corin, Halfhand, Grizzled Ranger. To the last removed, Battle Scars added. So, again, I don't really play Night Watch too much. So I don't know like what it was previously or whatever. But I think now Corin sort of just becomes like a weird Belwas in the sense that, yes, whenever he gets punched, he gets more angers. But yeah, not much to comment on that one. I don't think Corin was sort of even used in the previous patch anyway. GR Marmon ability reworked. His effect has been modified to being once per game. So this is quite huge. Again, any ability in any game that gives you a tutor for anything should be limited. The ability to fetch anything at any point in time with sort of minimal cost, I think it's too powerful. In a game where card is a component of the game, I think having constancy or consistency is a price that you need to pay. And I think this change is good in the sense that, yep, once per game is excellent here, and I think it's good. Yeah, it's just good. I sort of like it. We'll see how it goes. Ranger Tracker, cost reduced from 7 to 6. Trackers, while providing utility to Night Watch forces, were being outshined by other options at the same point cost. Reduced cost to 6 to rather than increase any of the already decent stats. So yeah, nothing much to change here. Some good news. Ranger Trackers. Ranger Trackers used to be sort of extremely good, and then they over nerfed it to 7 points. And now you have still like, the basic range, the basis of the good range unit with marked target and a decent shooting profile, but now they're 6 points. Conscript. While the drawbacks of the conscripts are there, it was too easy to shield them from direct combat and make just their supply order increasing their weakness, which could already be ignored by proper positioning, wasn't the answer. So their cost to be increased instead, which also pushes the watch further into its elite role. Yeah, well, you still get to respawn extra heals, but I think this is fine. Order, ready, aim, release modified. Morale increased from 5 plus to 6 plus for the builder Crossbowman. Design notes, ready, aim, release. Now use the unit lowest attack dice value. While this is the range mirror to set as recharge, that the added benefit of usually increasing when charged is if I had a shift, typically making a strictly better version. The change might be slight, but brings it more in line with lower potential damage addition. We have to reduce morale to affect that, but it depends on knife for their builder still brings them more in line with the other dedicated range unit. Well, he says it there. Why it was changed, and so let's just take it straight from the horse's mouth. Yep. Look, you're still shooting for 4 dice. 664 on 3 plus, and you get the shift. And you're most likely getting the crossbow benefit. So, yeah, still pretty good. It's not gonna make it like extremely OP like it was before. Still fairly good. Nothing much to comment on that one. Let's continue on. It's rated in Hammond Honus Masters Altal Yarick first builder. Effects rework. Now it's once per use. Good. Nothing much to comment from that one. For the watch, effects reworked. So alright, let's see what the two for the watch is. Start of any turn, target friendly 1 combat unit may roll any charge distance this turn. If this targets the unit of a night watch until the end of the game. While attached, each unit is targeted by the horse zone. You may replace it with one charge action. It was changed from. Let me check what it was previously. Night watch. Attached to unit. Jon Snow. Oh, sword and horse. Yeah, okay. So now it's just reduced to just the horse zone. Previously it was horse and zone, but it's still fairly powerful with the ranger hunters. Taking horse, but of course the enemy can then just sort of punch you back. But yep, still very powerful. Thoughts on Night Watch? I think in general it's going to the right direction. They take away some of their sort of strong suit. By strong suit, I mean abusable cards. Crossbowman, Relentless on Crossbowman, Jayor's Tutor, etc. But they're still keeping up things like Otel, the 5-point NCU Otel, so they're okay with the orbital laser that Otel has. I don't like Otel as a design. For me personally, having the ability to touch anything on the table with a minimum effect, a minimum cost of like 5 points, and sacrificing the effect is not where I like this game to be. Let's just put it that way. Many games I see that Nightwatch are just playing extremely defensively. You have to push because Otel is there, and you don't want to get shot by Otel, and then you are being shot by Otel. There's no counterplay to it. You can't hide from him because he apparently has an orbital satellite Helios laser, whatever thingamajiggy that he has. But at the same time, they did address like a lot of the sort of grievances with the Nightwatch in general. Is just that they have extremely good abilities for extremely little drawback, and sort of they changed that a bit with how it is working. But the Relentless change, I think this is universally. I think this ability universally shouldn't exist in the game. 3 points attachment, 3 points activation is not where I like it to be. Back then it was fine because NCU was costing 3 points, and I think sort of like a drawback of whether you want to bring an extra NCU or you sort of want to have a little bit more this, but again, I sort of don't like the direction that Relentless is still around. You get to still see like units having 8, 9 activation. In the case of Greyjoy, even 10 activation. So activation advantage will still be significant going forward into this, and I think we're going to see Night Watch still up there. They took a lot of changes. They took a lot of hits, but at the same time, they don't lose too much in a sense that they still have their game plan basically intact, which is healing with conscripts, having the ability to buff unit, and stacking buff units. So it's yep. All right, let's go to neutrals. The neutrals is a faction. Oh my god, this is new. Alright, so Neutrals is apparently a faction, and they're getting some changes for 2022-2021 update. So the first one is Reek costing 0 instead of 1. Well, I mean, look, honestly, this I thought this was a typo, right? When they mentioned Reek at the first time. When I look at, I think like one of the earlier documents that they had for Reek, I think it was stated its cost was 0. And then they sort of change it to now just it costing 1, and it's suddenly literally nobody brings him. Like for 1 point, you have a sort of a conditional effect. Plus, you can also die from the effect, and that's what makes people sort of don't want to play Reek to begin with, because you have a chance to die, and you're already bringing your expensive unit, right? And you bring in Reek for an extra 1 point. The first time he dishes out a panic token to the enemy, and then he dies. So it creates like this sort of feels bad moment for everyone involved in this exchange. Well, maybe not your opponent, because your opponents must be like, haha, loser. But yeah, for you, it sucks, because you already brought 1 pointer. You want to see him getting some value out of it, and then it just dies randomly over a dice roll. So that's a good change. Probably like this should take like not 6 months to implement, really, if you're just changing Reek from 1 point to 0 points. Reek's not hard busting anyone's balls, so it really should be just like a quick change. And again, it took them like 6 months to implement this, and a little bit surprised. And we're not gonna see, well, Ramsey Commander was not sort of being played simply because his dad, Roose Bolton, is sort of like the superior choice for neutral in this regards. So having Reek around in Ramsey sort of give you a use case to bring Ramsey now, but not really. Maybe if anybody in chat here can tell me like whether now he is worth it to bring, but I don't think so. Even for like for a neutrals list, you're still going to shy away from bringing Reek if you can help it. It simply just doesn't add too much things in your thing. All right, Tycho. Cost increased from 4 to 5. So this is huge, to the surprise of literally no one. Tycho was the universally most played NCU in the previous edition. He went from like a fringe use NCU. I think it was used in sort of a few Baratheons lists, because for the life of them, healing with Rose Knights with Tycho used to be like everyone's favorite pastime activities. Because Tycho was just really, really good. He heals and he brings you a lot of benefits. So people were just bringing Tycho. But now, because of the advent of sort of like the meta where you sort of just march and do nothing, so Tycho really, really rewards the type of gameplay where you just sort of like to march across the battlefield, and then once you get to your objective, you do nothing and then wait for the enemy to sort of wail on you. And this is what Tycho does best. Tycho excels in a game play where you don't want opponent to do anything. You want to sit back, you want to hold your objective, you want to heal up, And then, Taiko will also give. So it's a get out of jail free ticket card, and the meta has sort of evolved to the point where now every faction that can bring Taiko brings Taiko. Nightwatch brings Taiko. Targaryen brings Taiko. Neutral brings Taiko. Hell, Free Folk doesn't have access to Taiko. Free Folk is the most balanced faction in the world. Please, why? Why is it getting nerfed? So this creates sort of like that. That almost soft locks you into bringing Taiko because he's too good. And now he is at 5 points. I still okay. For me, increasing a unit's point cost. For me personally, yeah, it's a lazy change. They could experiment with maybe timing, like timing when you can use Taiko, like because back then you just literally press a button, then your unit voila heals 5. There are no foresight, no skill needed to pull it off, and you get the instant benefit. I personally would like to see Taiko sort of being changed, not in the cost department, but sort of in like the timing department, where instead of you activating it at the start of the turn, you activate it at the start of the round. So then people can have sort of decision of when they want to use Taiko or whether they want to bring Taiko in their list, considering that it's a 5. It's the timing restriction is now changed to the start of the round. So that gives you sort of like a more things to play around with, in the sense that it's no longer just a point and click, you press a button, you get benefit kind of deal. You sort of have to think about where and when you want to use him, and I think that's the most important user of Taiko. Bloody Mummer Source Rider, cost reduced from 7 to 6. The less than stellar defense side of the unit were not being properly balanced by their offensive capabilities, especially coming at 7 points, where players tend to not have to jump 2 hoops to get the abilities to work. Sorry. We have reduced their point cost to the 6 points bracket T with a double T to compensate for this. So nobody was bringing Zors again. Because it's like it says, it does too little for the point cost. At 7 points, you're expecting a unit to sort of really, really contribute to the battle, and sort of like even like the main battle plan. The 7 pointers, they have to literally carry their weight. But what we're seeing from like the Zorses and a lot of these 7 pointers unit that is existing now, well, the Outriders, they're just sort of like a weird skirmishy type unit that you sort of send to a flank to help assist some units there to win a flank. So they're not exactly the ones sort of being on the flank and sort of contributing much to the activity. They're just sort of like the support to the line unit, and sort of like even the line breakers at times. So this is an okay change. It's not gonna bring people going like, oh my god, we need to bring mummers now because mummers are so OP. It's not gonna drive any sentiments like that. But at the same time, it does give you options. And in a game like A Song of Ice and Fire, where you are, when you have to sort of think of what units are you going to bring because you only have 40 points, having quite a fair bit of option is good. So I'm happy to see people trying out sources again, and I hope to see some neutrals being played sometimes. House Bolton Bloody Mummer Skirmishers to hit increase from 4+ to 3+. In other case, the unit's subpar defense stat not properly being balanced against their damage output. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, just overall buffs to the 2 Mummers unit. Their stats have been sort of compensated for their extremely weak defensive skills, which I think it's okay. This is a fine direction to be had. And again, I'm just happy to see, or I can't wait to see like what people will bring to the table now that these units have sort of been uh, properly buffed. And lastly is Cutthroat. They now hit on 3+. Um, again, yeah, this is interesting because I thought that previously the sort of benchmark for like a 3+ to hit is the unit cost, right? Um, like for example, the Tarky streamers. Let's just put it as an example. They're a 6-point unit that hits on a 3+. Um, but then they have sort of like shitty defense to begin with. So then the dev sort of justified just because because they have shitty defense, you can increase their potential damage output for a bit. The cutthroats are sort of on that level of sort of argument where they're sitting at like the extreme low of the defense. I believe they have like 5+ armor save and 7+ defense. So they are pretty bad when it comes to defense in the first place. So now with this, I think it's now a good sort of even unit to consider in like things like Lannister's list or any list that sort of has focus on panic. Because I think they're still a pretty decent unit for 5 points, and now their 2-hit is now 3+ to hit, so that makes their combat output quite decent as well. And yeah, I think overall this is an okay change for neutrals. I was hoping to see more buffs across the table here, to be honest, but I guess neutral isn't a faction, right? So we don't need to spend too much time in looking for neutrals. So yeah, I mean it's not much to talk about neutrals. I think they could probably think of like their sort of main combat units, or like the design seems, like I said, the design seems lazy from like sort of just a tweak perspective. They're just tweaking numbers. I mean, you don't really need to playtest a lot to tweak numbers. Well, you do need to playtest, but you don't really need to sort of have a lot of 6 months to just test out point changes, right? So yeah. So that's for neutrals. I think we've been live for an hour now. I might just cut it short this time because I think I need to sort of prepare for work a bit. So I think we'll stop now in the verse sort of video, part 1 of this discussion, this talk, this chat, whatever. We're gonna come back in probably around 12 hours to discuss the rest of the changes that we have. Hopefully, maybe I can even bring like a guest to talk about some of the changes. So we haven't covered Baratheon, which I think everybody's sort of looking forward to some of the Baratheon changes. I think they are amazing. Free Folk is also coming up, and Targaryens, as well as I think we need to talk about the changes in the game modes as well. Which I think is significant, especially the way that the whole scoring changes. I think it's going to bring a lot of shakeup to the table, and in general, I like shakeup. So we're going to end the stream right here, I think. 1 week, once we come back in about 24 hours, we're going to talk about the rest of the stuff. And to guys still watching the stream, I think we're going to have to cut it short. Have a good rest of the day. We're going to put this on VOD and YouTube. And enjoy the 2021 update, guys. See you then.